Okay, here we go. This is Papa Duke's the OG Social Network Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today on this beautiful, hot Wednesday. We are enjoying a beautiful summer day. We had an amazing night last night. We were able to win a very important election, which I think is going to change the focus on what we are doing with this country. And I have to say that Zohran Mamdani definitely declares victory in the New York City's Democratic mayoral primary as Cuomo concedes. I believe Cuomo had no chance. There was no way he was going to make it. Brad Lander here is going to be able to keep his job as comptroller, I'm sure. And the people came out and voted. 432,305, 43% of the votes. Cuomo got 361, which I'm surprised because, I know you all are sick and tired of dealing with predators in politics. So that's a little essay I'll be writing on in the next couple of months, because that's a long list of high-profile politicians that goes back at least as long as there's been a country. So, but everyone came through, and I appreciate the city for doing what they do, getting out there, getting the vote out. The Bangladeshi community wasn't playing. Pakistani Indian community wasn't playing. People went out there, the Bronx, all 5 boroughs showed that this man is new blood, and we want to give him an opportunity to run for mayor. So we'll find out who the Republican candidate is, but congratulations to Zohran Mamdani and his team for making it happen, and I hope to get him on a podcast. Other than that, also too, I want to be able to give a big shout out to our sponsors, Proteus 420, New York City Cannabis Exchange. We love you, Mimi. How you doing? Green Spectrum, Michael Fertucci and his family up in Hopewell Junction, Greg Myers of Myers Security, and also Gordy's Goodies, and my friend Sohan Bashar at Silk Road. They're in Jamaica, Queens, great dispensary. So listen, I'm here with Charles Johnson. He is an attorney and also a representative, member of the NAACP. He is a licensed attorney for over 10 years with an employment law and statutory background, mainly involving collective bargaining, negotiations, administrative trials, arbitrations, and labor relations. Charles was also a law clerk at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's headquarters in D.C. under the Obama administration. So you must know Michael Blake. Currently, Charles works for Cornell University ILR School, and in their labor and employment law program as an educator, building curriculum and teaching courses regarding the various New York State labor and employment laws. My apologies. Y'all know I get hot. Okay, so let's not do this. If you look at the Seth Meyers,
saying it.
All right, but I'm gonna get better.
Yeah, you got it.
All right. Charles served as first vice chair of Manhattan's Community Board 10, Central Harlem, and currently chairs the Civic Engagement Committee for the NAACP's Mid-Manhattan branch. Charles also serves as an executive committee member for the NAACP's New York Conference. So, Charles, how are you? How do you feel about last night?
I'm kind of surprised. Well, in a pleasant way too, though. So just to go back, because you had mentioned a couple of things. You were talking about Brad Lander. So I believe that Mark Levine has won the primary for comptroller. So it seems like he's going to be the shoe-in for it.
All right.
And it looks like State Senator Brad Holtman, he's the winner for the Manhattan Borough President. So I know he has one person that that's going to be running as a Republican. I believe his name's Session. He's a Republican candidate though. So, but going back to the mayoral candidate, I mean the mayoral race, I was surprised that Cuomo got as many votes
Me
that he
too.
got though, but at the same, but so a part of it's weird. It's part of me was surprised, but then another part of me was kind of expecting it to a certain degree, just based on the optics of how they were attacking Cuomo and just also his political history. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be very interesting. I think Michael Blake. It's funny you said that because I actually saw him last week while he was campaigning. Zellner
Hmm.
as well. I think Michael Blake is definitely going to be a part of that administration because I think that he had some good key points. I
Hmm.
think Brad as well. So I think even just some of the candidates that ran, I think that there's going to be a place for them in the administration because there are some gaps from Zoram. But overall, we did a personal. We had we conducted a mayoral candidates forum with the ACLU earlier this month, and
Hmm.
we did individual interviews of each of the candidates, and I had the pleasure of interviewing Zoran. And he did well. I had some questions about the WMBE certifications and his plan for that because there's been a huge disproportion when it comes to the allocation of WMBEs. It's been going to Caucasian women as opposed to minorities, African Americans, and things of
Now,
that
can
nature.
you tell us the what's WNBEs?
So that's your minority women business certification. So
Okay.
there's a certain certification that you can receive if you're a minority business owner or if you're a woman business owner, or it can be in hybrid though. But essentially, you get priority when it comes to certain contracts, and you're also included on a vendors list for New York City. So it literally ranges from all sectors though. But those are certifications that you can receive. There's local organizations that help people get organized to receive WMB certifications because it's not a hard process. And I encourage any business owner in New York City to make sure that they get certified if they're a minority or if they're a woman.
Well, from what I understand, though, when they apply for that, it takes quite a while to get approved, doesn't it? How long is that?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the exact timeline off the top of my head, but I do know that it is a process. I believe it takes over 6 months. Because they're also looking at too, if you've been operational as well. So, but the key is this: you have to actually apply. And the issue is in this state is that we don't have people applying. Now, on that's just as far as our accountability as citizens. The other issue is when it comes to just the allocation of government contracts. That's one piece because yes, they're going to WMB, certified people, but we're finding out that it's going more towards Caucasian women.
Right.
They've been the beneficiaries of it. And then just the allocations of these certifications have been going primarily there. So I hope that the next mayor addresses that because Eric Adams, stated that he was going to address it. He was making progress, but when we actually did a deep dive, it didn't look like that way.
No, Eric had no. Uh, he had no intention of doing that. I think what is he's running for independent. That's what I found out.
Yep,
So
he
and
had to.
yeah, he had to, and uh, I think that's going to cause that could be an actual positive for Mamdani.
Mhm.
Uh, but when I looked at applying for that, the business, a
The
minority
WMB.
business, yeah,
Mhm.
WMB, I saw that it was like almost 3 years for them to get through that, to get to your application in some cases.
Mm.
Has that changed at all, or do you
Yeah,
know, or
from my understanding, just more recently, because we work with Harlem Business Alliance that's located in Harlem, and they actually help people. They do workshops about WMB certifications and help people get processed for it. I'm not sure about a 3-year process. I know that there's requirements as far as how long you've been employed. I mean, how long you've
Mhm.
been operating. If you actually have revenue, things of that nature. But I was under the impression it was shorter than the 3 years.
Okay.
Excuse me, 3 year span though. So, but I can check back. I can definitely follow up with you on that.
What is your view of people, young people today going towards law as a career? Do you see that expanding? I mean, growing, or because I know
I
women
mhm.
of women of color and Black women, they're at the top of the educational pyramid,
Yeah.
right? Do you see a lot of young brothers going that route?
It's interesting you say that though. So I've been practicing for over a decade, and I know when I graduated, what they let us know is that as far as just the compensation, I mean the composite of lawyers in this country, 4%, less than 4% are minority, and we're and that's really being more lenient. And then when you break that percentage down, there's more Black women who are attorneys as opposed to Black men. I think that's also contributed to mass incarceration rates and other things of that
Hmm.
nature. That's just why you see this huge gap. And I'll come back. We can chat about that. You
Yeah,
actually we talked about that in person a little bit.
yeah.
But so to your point and to your question, I think that there is going to be a surge. I think because of how this current administration is handling the rollbacks of Title VII, Civil Rights Acts, Civil Rights bills, things of that nature. It's going to be something of that nature. It's going to be a rollback. I mean, it's going to be an inclusion though. But there's another component that I was thinking about that just not just necessarily impacts Blacks, but just really overall the legal workforce, and it's going to be the AI aspect
Hmm.
because when you come in, I mean, not the drafting things of that nature is one thing, but when it comes to the legal research, typically a lot of that stuff is reserved for interns, clerks. So when I was clerking at the EEOC headquarters, I was drafting opinions on behalf of the commissioner. So this is literally the highest level, and this was all in the context of federal agencies that had discrimination cases and they were appealing it. But what we did was, I mean, we were researching, we were writing, we were drafting, things of that nature. AI is essentially going to be taking some of those things away. So I think now the goal is going to be to make sure that we still in market and bring in young professional talent is just kind of being more creative with just the job position. So as opposed to you being a traditional intern where you're researching and things of that nature, you have AI that can actually do that, but you're going to need somebody to fact check, and to confirm because AI is actually not 100% accurate. And if you really do a deep dive or just reframe a question, it'll pick itself up. So I think that there is hope for it. And also I'm just an optimistic person in general. But I think that in order for us to really get brothers to see the importance of it is that they have to understand the historical context. Because for me personally, I became an attorney because I saw Johnny Cochran on TV representing people,
Hmm.
as a child, and that let me know like, oh, there's a black, he's a black man, I could do this too, type of thing. And then
Hmm.
further research, and I see Thurgood Marshall and stuff like that, and it was a wrap. So I had in my mind at 17 that I wanted to be an attorney.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
was locked in on it. Like everything was stepped to that way. But yeah, I do think that there's an opening door for it because once people start really feeling civil rights and feeling other things happen in the community, or unfortunately when it actually happens to somebody close to them, that's what triggers, you know, change.
I believe that your generation and Generation Z are really seeing the truth of what society is bringing to them, and they're like, "I am not doing this. I'm
Mm,
not having it," and uh, are seeing that they have options to make change as they get older. I hope they make the right decision. And do what is needed because their time is coming to run the world.
yes.
Right. So, what was it like working in the community board over there? What was that like? Because I want to tell you, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Look, I'm a native New Yorker, right?
Yeah.
My grandparents were here, and my grandfather was here in the 20s. My
Hmm.
maternal grandfather, my paternal side of the family came here in the 40s.
Mm,
And my grandmother was up here in the 30s.
hmm.
So they got to see the Renaissance. Well,
Yeah.
at least, you know what I mean? Right.
Yeah.
So, uh, as I walk through 125th Street, I find it to be the if you ever want to see the disparity of America, just go there. If you want to see how Black people, what to me, that's a very upscale outdoor prison.
Yeah.
All right.
I could definitely see that.
If you look at 135th and Madison, all the way over to 125 6th Avenue, Lenox, all in there. It's a mess. It's like it's gotten worse and worse for Black people. It's like it's wearing down. It's the last of it wearing down our culture, our image. It just seems like the more I read about history, everything we did from Black Wall Street, Tulsa, everywhere, right? No matter how successful we became, we were going to be destroyed. It was like constant. And and for me, Harlem is that. So how did you feel working in a community board that I feel has made no change? All the community boards that are there, that has done nothing to ensure that we could get our people off the streets, have good housing, mental health and wellness, access to, mental health and wellness counseling. How was that for you?
Interesting. Such a multi-layered thing. So I'm gonna break it down. So a couple things I heard, because I heard you talk about 125th Madison. So just to be clear, we have in Harlem, we have Community Board 9, Community Board 10, Central Harlem, and Community Board 11. Community Board 9 is where, you'll see Columbia. Community Board 10, 11, what you were referring to is, Madison, pretty much after Fifth Avenue. After Fifth Avenue. So Madison Park, Lexington, stuff like that. For us, Community Board 10 was Central Harlem, which caught 110th Central Park all the way up to 155th Street, I believe. And that went from Fifth Avenue to Convent, just depending on how it was kind of structured, because some of us bottom part kind of had Manhattanville too.
Right.
But so it's interesting because, for instance, 125th is controlled by what's called the 125th bid. So and I know I've been on record because I was also, beside being first vice chair of Community Board 10, I also was a member of the Economic Development and Technology Committee and Public Safety. I was a chair for Public Safety too. But I brought up and I raised this with Barbara Atkins for 125th bid, when I was just noticing the proliferation of chicken shops, on 125th. And I was like, why do we have such a heavy concentration of like fried chicken, like spots or whatever the case may be? And the comments, or I guess the response that I received was, oh, well, these are people that are willing to pay there, and this is what people want, things of that nature. And I'm like, nah, I couldn't prescribe to that, because I felt that if you have, historically, when I first moved up here, there was a whole plethora of vendors. They still have the 125 Mart that's just sitting there. There's so many, all these vacancies that are there, and I'm like, well, why do we have to bring in these outside franchise markets when we could literally be using the vendors that we have, and we could actually place them in some of these vacant places and make them hybrids, like how you see it, at the piers and Chelsea Pier and stuff like that, where it's one spot. I mean, even here on Lexington, I've seen that. Like, it's one spot that has multiple businesses inside of it. But again, and then also too, I was wondering why we weren't seeing any homegrown places on that spot, on 125th. But if we're going to be 100% honest, I think that this goes back to the civic engagement piece, because the community board only has so much power. We are an advisory piece. We are the middle people that pretty much disseminate from government to the constituents. And a lot of times people feel that, or think that, the community board has more power than what they actually have. Because the reality of it is that when you're talking about the situations that are happening, even the oversaturations of methadone clinics in Harlem. You talk about, the lack of Black minority business owned, and
that is if it's black owned, it's either a barber shop or a
Yeah, it's the yeah,
restaurant.
it's the nonsense though. But we have
Yeah,
people that are creative, and then, oh, and let's get into it even deeper. You know, when you talk about just the actual affordable housing, you know, not just affordable rent stabilization, but also just actual housing that you can purchase, like Mitchellama type things, like um those things. Those things tie into your city council person, your state rep, I mean your state assembly and your state senator. So this is where, and what the frustrations that I've seen just over the time is just that disconnect when it comes to the symbiotic relationship between the borough president, the community board, the your city council person, your state assembly, and your state senator. Because a lot of the questions and concerns we have can either be addressed from city level, and if it's something that where we need to have a higher protection, then that's where we introduce our state assembly and state senators. But there's disconnects on that because again, politicians are going to play the politician games.
yeah,
There's also too, you have on community boards, unfortunately, there's folks that aren't there to serve the community as they should. They're there to use that as a springboard, for elected positions, or to put on their resume. They really have no intentions on really kind of fixing the community. So I've seen frustrations on that, but I think just as far as my personal experience, on community board 10, because I can speak personally about community board 10, we did have some amazing individuals that truly love Harlem. I think the issue is always how we go about correcting it, because a lot of us see the end goal, but we have different paths and different ways of doing it. And then really truly, how can we as a collective make sure that we are informing the community, and we're also doing right by the community. But before you can even do that, you have to have internal structures in place, meaning that you have to understand the bylaws, you have to understand Robert's rules of order, you have to understand some basic things. You can't, for lack of better words, you can't, have a ratchet type of a type of
yeah,
meeting where people were yelling, cursing, stuff like that. And that
yeah,
was also a stigma that even when I entered the board, they were like, why you want to join community board 10, but we made a lot of changes, and hopefully the changes are going to continue. But that's where it's been. I think another piece is that, like I said, that disconnect when it comes to to local elected officials. For us, we had a weird situation because we've had three different city council people over the past 5 years.
hmm,
So there hasn't been that consistent relationship building. Also with the shift of Gail Brewer not being borough president with Mark Levine. Mark was cool, but if we're being honest, there were some things that Mark didn't really care too much about when it came to Central Harlem, because he didn't necessarily need Harlem's vote and support to win borough president. Um, and then if you look back, and you can check his receipts too, if you look back to city council where he was with city council over for CB9, there's stories on that piece though. So when you have disconnects on those levels, then it impacts everybody it impacts everybody, including community residents. But the problem is community residents are going to look at the community board and say, oh, why didn't you fix this? Why didn't you fix that? No, that's not
well,
our job.
right. You see, the thing about it is that first off, the average voter is not educated on the mechanisms of running a government,
Absolutely.
right? And that's why I think we should get back to that in education in schools,
I agree.
right? So, so it is, I think, if you're going to take a position of leadership in a community, you should educate. You should, one, be qualified, educated. I didn't say you had to go to college or anything, but at
No,
least
it's
be
educated. Yeah, no.
knowledgeable and educated in what you're doing,
Yep.
common sense, and understand you're representing a diverse group of people. Even if you were in an all-white community, you're still dealing with a diverse group of thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
individuals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but in New York, we're unique. We deal with the diverse groups of cultures, communities. We are a nation of immigrants, and
Mm-hmm.
New York City is the capital.
Yes. Yes, it literally is. You
All
got
right. New York
yeah.
City is the capital. So let me repeat that. We are a nation of immigrants, and New York City is the capital. And after 3 generations, your people are indigenous,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
So, what what the problem is, I think, is again these politicians. They come in and a lot of them aren't even a part of the community. They just happen to live. You know what I mean? They don't
Yeah,
really
no, that's
actively
no,
like
no.
Kamal Johnson. He lost the primary to Joe Ferris up in Hudson
Uh-huh.
last night by like 60 votes or so. It's a small
Wow,
town.
60 votes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
tough.
you know, I was up there for the debate, and he'd already done 2 terms, or yeah, he was there since 2019. And you know, he did his best, but the community wants someone different. So I hope they were able to vote. I hope this person that they voted for looks out for their best interests. But his main concern is getting tax revenues back into the city. And by doing that, there are so many people that are on the that owe taxes that they can lose their property. And he has no plan of coming up to help them keep their property and pay for their back taxes. So now a lot of these people are going to be, you know, what's going to happen?
Mhm.
So, but you know, Kamal lost, but Mamdani won.
Mm.
And I believe his election will set off a stage nationally that's going to bring back the House to the Democrats,
Mhm.
and we'll be able to at least halt the last 2 years of this man's presidency by making him a lame duck president.
Mm.
Um, uh, and also, we need to prepare for new blood and new leadership on a national level.
Well, right there. I'm so glad you
State,
said that.
state and national level. I'm tired of my generation. We've you know doing it. We've flubbed it. This last election showed the true colors of European Americans. They're not
Mhm.
white. We're not fucking Crayola crayons. All right, they're European Americans.
Say it again for the people in the
We
back.
if any we as African Americans are actually indigenous now. We have 10 generations of enslaved to this day, marginalized peoples to this day. The last 500 days of this president, well, how many ever many fucking days now? 6 months of this presidency has shown the true colors of this nation, and it's time to change. So, what is it that you're going to do as an attorney on the political side to get this new blood out here? And how can I help you?
Oh, my brother, I appreciate you saying that. Well, that's why I'm a part of the NAACP. I think that with the passing of one of my mentors, Dr. Hazel Dukes, who also served on Community Board 10 with me as well, um, and just what she had set up as far as just young representation from Gen Z to all the way down, from millennials to Gen Z, I think we're going to be okay. But again, it's going to be work, and we have to be diligent. One of the things to your point, and I think we talked about it before, is that I think when it comes to just the organization, the plans, that we have to make sure that Gen Z understands their voting power. You know, one of the things that empowered my generation during 2018, 2017 to really 2019 to 2020 was understanding that we had the largest voting bloc in the country, at during that time period. So, but the problem is this, though: you can have the largest voting bloc in the country, but if you don't organize the largest voting bloc in the country, then it doesn't mean anything. So, but the hope now is that, and I spoke about this at Gutman College, yeah, during Black History Month, because I was trying to, encouraging the young boys and girls to get civically involved. Is that if we do this right, what we could do is we could actually, because they're going to actually have the largest voting block in the upcoming few years. But now you add in that their voting block with the millennial voting block, then now you're talking about true power. But it's about truly organizing and then really truly seeing what's the issues that we have, and being on a one uniform type of page. The problem is this, though, because you have so many distractions going on, and this is also by design. it allows for fragmentation, and we've seen this throughout history. When you can fragment individuals, and then boom, this is how it goes, because we know once you unify folks and people understand that the smoke and mirrors is really our race, and also our age, because they try to use now generational gaps, is that's those are the smoke and mirrors, but the commonality is our poverty and the economic gaps. Then that's where we're able to truly make change. But that's what I want to focus on. I really want to focus on getting, the younger folks actively engaged and involved, while also just identifying people from my generation that I know that are legit and that are really trying to get their hands dirty and get this stuff together. And then we mobilize in that way, but we have to do it very strategically. You also have powers to be, because I appreciate the sentiments you shared about your generation, but if I'm also being honest, and I've seen this personally, is that when people have power, they have an issue with letting the power go. So they want to keep power at all costs, or even if it's to the detriment of their community as well as detriment to themselves. So then we have to be very strategic, because we have forces that be that are attempting to distract us from this, because they don't want the community to be informed. Because if they're informed, then that means people ask questions. If you don't ask questions, that means that you can do whatever you want. And I saw this on a community board level. I've seen this on all types of levels. Like, some people don't want people to be informed, because it allows them to run around and do things, arbitrarily and capriciously. But yeah, we have to focus on that piece. We got to focus on the youth, having them understand that, hey, this your time's about to come up. But proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. So how are you going to prepare? And what we can do is to provide them with, the hurdles and missteps that we took back in 2018, 2019, pre-COVID, because we were organizing as well to get ready. Because once you realize you have the largest voting block, then that changes the game. But they don't understand. When you ask somebody what's a voting block, they're like, what do you mean? you know so
Right.
getting them together, having safe spaces for that, and really just trying to organize. And I know that with NAACP, that's one piece, because we're focused on civic engagement.
Hmm.
Throughout the state, we have a youth and college division, a robust youth and college division, that we work with. So, but that's just NAACP. This needs to go larger. We need to be organizing with other organizations, because again, we're talking about generations. So this transcends race when we talk about generations. But as far as Black people, if we were gonna, if we're talking about race and bringing it back, then yeah, we could easily organize, because it starts off locally. If you organize locally with your voting blocks and things of that nature, and you do it successfully, then now you have a blueprint that can be, replicated throughout the state, but also can be adjusted, in other jurisdictions based on the political climate.
You know, um, I host events,
Hmm.
and you gave me a great idea, right? Um, you gave me a great idea. So at the Elevate Innovate on August 15th, you,
Yeah.
you're going to bring NAACP down.
That's not a problem. I'll make sure.
All
You got
right.
that's enough time too, though. You said, oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
what is this,
got you. I
Friday?
got you.
Friday, yeah, yeah.
That's Friday, man. We got you. You're going to have a lovely mocktail bar, curated, lovely speaking, music. It was a great event, August 24th. The reason why I don't like to have them too close, I wanted to marinate in people's minds,
Yeah.
and have them understand that what I do is I'm an amazing network. If I were Superman, that's my power, networking. So, I'm serious, man.
I love it.
I noticed too that with Cornell University's labor and employment law program, you also deal with the labor relations, right, and set up.
Yes,
Because I'm telling you now, uh, butt tenders are having hell,
absolutely.
and they feel that the union that represents them are useless.
Mm.
Many have been
Upstate?
fired.
It's upstate though, right? Or is it just across? You hearing it
Um,
from everywhere? Copy.
Primarily 5 boroughs.
Oh wow.
All right. So, I've heard, I'm not going to say who, what, when, where, but
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to do all that.
yeah, yeah. But, there have been issues where people have been hired, management moved from cities, and then find out they come here, they can't hire.
Mm.
I found out, bud tenders, there have been sexual discrimination, sexual harassment, very unprofessional situations people were in, and on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
So how, knowing that their unions that represent them have really no recourse in helping them, how can in this new industry, especially in the retail side, can these people be protected and put, owners on notice that, look, you are hiring people that rely on this money to live, and they need a safe working space to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're put in a position that that's not happening,
Mm-hmm.
how can they find legal recourse or protect themselves?
Okay, well, that's a great question. And honestly, the reason why I asked upstate because we've also heard some similar things when it comes to some of those claims. But so it's a few levels. So when it comes to the union, um, typically if you feel like something is going wrong with the union, there's a couple of ways that you can handle things. There's things where you can actually file an unfair labor practice where you're filing against your union stating that they're not following the things that they need to be doing, and that's what you will file with the NLRB, which is the National Labor Relations Board. But the problem is this, though. Right now, currently, thanks to our current president, the
Mm,
National Labor Relations Board does not have the statutory requirement of members to actually speak. I mean, to sit and make decisions. He just
hmm.
removed, Gwen, who was the chair, and no coincidence, this is a woman. You see what I'm saying? Like it was,
Yeah,
but he kept the two white boys, which was very interesting.
right.
But at that point, it kind of dismantles. But that does not change the fact that you still have that recourse. So you still need to file something. That's one piece. The other piece is this: there are a lot of people are under the misconception that just because you signed a labor peace agreement, if you're doing a cannabis business here in New York State, that you have to do union organization with that union that you signed a labor peace agreement with. But
Hmm.
that's not true. The labor peace agreement, literally just the requirements is that it has to be a bona fide union in New York State.
Hmm.
But you can apply for other unions, and if there's another union, so let's just give you an example. If there's another union that you want to have come and represent you, saying that, hey, this union's not doing what we need to do, and I can give you an example, Teamsters, for instance, because Teamsters is doing something similar in California. um, you can go through the process and they'll do an accretion, and that's essentially meaning that, hey, you're doing another signing and then and you're doing another union organizing process, but you're selecting another union, and then you're essentially taking those members and moving them over, because you don't have to stay with the union. It's just that you have other options, type of thing. In most places, once you have one union there, that covers a group, then they stay with that. But I've found out that the Teamsters actually has $100 million cannabis fund. I know that they're entering into the cannabis space. I'm not sure if they're fully into New York State though, but I know that they've already touched bases in California. So that's one piece. But then aside from the union parts, if you're just talking about basic employment discriminations, basic employment, harassments, things of that nature, violations of labor law, then I would strongly encourage them to do two things. If you're talking about wages, if you're talking about wage theft, things of that nature. I've heard about tips, tip jars, and then dispensaries taking the tip jars and then don't or spreading it out amongst managers, which is clearly a violation because you're talking about exempt and non-exempt employees. And when it comes to tips, it's not supposed to be that way. So you can file with the New York State Department of Labor, and there's actually a claim form that you would file, and you could do it that way. Remember too, the other piece as well is that they are licensed, so that means that you also have OCM that you can be filing reports with. I believe that they have another like regulatory kind of
Right.
like leg of some like bureau or whatever, you can file complaints and reports on that. So I'm saying that, and then it's not individual. You should be doing all these things in conjunction. So if you have a wage replacement, I mean a wage theft issue, you're filing with DOL, but you're also reporting it to OCM, because per the regulations, there is a removal of the license when you're doing things of that nature, and that falls under that category. So you have that part. And you're talking about discrimination. Let's just say you're being sexually harassed, because I heard you say that. Then that's something that you would escalate to the New York State Division of Human Rights. And what you would do is, and I would encourage everybody who's an employee, is to make sure that they're documenting, they're keeping a good paper trail of documentation when it comes to this stuff. Sexual harassment. If you have any individuals who have witnessed some of these instances, to make sure that you have a list of folks, but just keep a timeline. And then, because what you would do is essentially you would submit to the New York State Department of Human Rights Division. You would submit your claim, but in the claim, you would have a detailed description. And what they would do is they would get a prosecutor to come in and to take your claim and interview you. And then after that interview, if they see like, okay, there are some violations per New York State protected classes, then or retaliation, or what I mean, discrimination, retaliation, harassment fall under all those. Then what they would do is they're going to conduct an investigation. They're going to go through the process. So now you have an attorney that's actually asking some of those hardline questions. If there's documents that that need to be received, and there's all types of ways of receiving those documents on their end. But those are the ways that you do it. You can also file anonymously. We also have whistleblower protections here in New York State. So that means that if you do file something and someone, retaliates, and it can be subtle retaliation. It could be something to where, oh, now they've reduced my hours. Now they have
Right.
me working, this crazy shift that I can't work. Now all of a sudden, like, I can't get days off that or days that I put in advance as far as requesting time off. Now they're just getting declined. Like, it's subtle things, what we call constructive dismissal in employment law, to where
Mm-hmm.
they create the environment to be so hostile, that you either resign or you quit, or you
Mm-hmm.
resign or you get terminated, because they egg you on. So my point is that you can do all of those things though, but yeah, you need to they need to file. They have to speak up. They need to file, and they need to also just make sure they keep that paper trail of stuff though. So if there was conversations that were had, because I know this happens often, conversations that are had, then you follow it up in an email saying, per our conversation, this is what you said, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there may not be emails. Sometimes I know that when it comes to these smaller dispensaries, I've noticed that folks have text messages and chains of that nature. Then you follow up in a text message, because remember, text messages are admissible evidence. And that right there shows that, hey, this is a continuation of what they said. I'm following up on it, and that's like I said, that's proof. But they have recourse. It's just about making sure that they actually take the steps to do it, because a lot of people are just afraid to actually speak up. And when you are afraid to speak up, then you enable that type of behavior. And one of the things that I hope for this industry, cannabis, is that we don't adopt previous bad practices from other industries, because there's a lot of intersectionality and
Right.
transferable skills that come over. So
Right.
we have the opportunity to literally create best practices in this industry, and that can be a model. But we have to make sure that we are speaking up, and we have to make sure that we are nipping this in the bud now, as this industry is very early, because if we wait, then it's going to be too late. But I hope that answers the question.
Oh man, did you not only answer the question? You definitely covered a lot. I love it. I was with the Minority Cannabis Business Association yesterday.
Hmm.
Mike Lamuto, his wife, and it was an equity workshop over at the CUNY on the Concourse.
Hmm.
And one of the things they talked about was making sure that they had the two things you definitely really needed to have was an accountant and an attorney.
Hmm.
Do you help dispensaries or new business owners in the cannabis industry, whether it be it touching the plant or ancillary? Do you
Oh, like
provide?
individually, personally?
Yeah, do you
Nah,
provide
I wish,
legal?
brother. They locked me up.
Wow.
And
Okay.
no, I mean in a good way, because again, now I'm focused. I've transitioned over to legal education, so that's
Right.
what I do.
Right.
I build out this employment law curriculum for Cornell. So that's where the focus is. But again, I always
Tell
have
us.
I have the resources, and I have people that I can connect folks with. That's what I usually do, even in the
Okay.
community.
Tell us about your curriculum, by the way.
So, well, I mean, I'm still
I
working on
mean,
some of it.
yeah, no,
Actually,
no, no, no.
even after this meeting, I got a
Yeah,
curriculum
no,
call.
no,
But
no. I mean,
no,
you don't. Yeah,
it's essentially just in a nutshell is really to try to make sure that employers and employees understand their rights and responsibilities in the workplace, because where we believe that, if you provide the rights and responsibilities in the workplace to both sides, and you can have what's called a fair and equitable mutual relationship in the workplace. And a lot of times what happens is that there are individuals that, in workplaces, just the environment, there's a lack of respect, there's a lack of inclusion, there's a lack of diversity, there's a lack of all types of things. And then compensation, is one of the things as well. So that's what we do. We really try to focus and equip people. We have a portion as well that's tied into, that we partnered with, CWI, Cannabis Workforce Initiative, where we provide the legal backing and training when it comes to just the curriculum pieces. But we have stuff that's tailored to the MRTA. We have stuff that's just generalized when it comes to just employment law, because the MRTA amended New York State labor law, so that just impacts all industries, whether it comes to cannabis drug testing to, things of that nature. So that's what we work on. I do classes with wages and hours, with, legalization, criminal records. Let me see what else. Implicit bias is another class that we're working on, where from implicit bias from an employer perspective, as well as, employee, how to actually hire the right employee. So going through the linear steps of that, and really helping people develop those pieces. So we got a lot of stuff, man. That's a lot of stuff, but it's really mainly to make sure that we're creating that fair and equitable mutual relationship. Because the onus is, because we also understand too, if we're just talking about cannabis, let's just take it in just the cannabis space. Like, the MRTA was focused on at least 50% of those licenses being awarded to social equity applicants. That means that those are people that look like me and you,
right.
and that means that also too, and as black men to black men, we understand that a lot of people may not necessarily have that business history when it comes to the formal structure that you see in this country. A lot of people have business acumen, but they don't understand the structure when it comes to regulations, things of that nature. So you got a lot of first time, like, business owners, legit, like, official, like, business owners, meaning that you're filing taxes, things of that nature. So there has to be a little bit more grace when it comes to that piece. And sometimes when you're in that space and this is your first time, you bring over bad habits, so we have to make sure that we're protecting them, because a lot of them have put literally their life savings into these licenses, so they cannot afford to have, a lawsuit because there was a misclassification, because you were classifying somebody as an assistant manager, but actuality they were a bud tender, and you weren't paying them overtime as they required. Like, they don't have those luxuries. So we just
Hmm.
really need to educate people on that piece, and then also make people understand, like, hey, you're a new business owner. You remember how it felt when when you were treated like garbage, as an employee. You understand how it is when you have managers that are like that do bad things. So now you have an opportunity to course correct and fix that. So that's from an employer side. From an employee side, like I said, there are so many people that are just trying to get into this industry, that want to really use some of this industry as a stepping stone for them to potentially get a license. So they're starting off on the ground level, bud tenders, things of that nature. But
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
similar to Amazon, similar to these other companies, when it comes to employees, there's a reason why we have labor laws in this country, because employers have historically done employees
Oh,
wrong. Period.
ooh,
You know what I mean?
ooh,
So we have to be
ooh.
just realistic with it, though. So there's a reason why we have that, but we have to utilize these pieces, though. But we also have to hold the unions accountable too, which
Right.
means that if you have a union that's not doing right, that means that there's union leadership that needs to change. And guess who votes in union leadership? The members.
The
You see what I'm saying?
members.
It's and
Yeah.
this is and now I'm gonna try to connect it to the larger thing that we've been talking about. When we're talking about civic engagement, it's all the same stuff. Whether you're talking about voting for politics in your community, whether you're talking about protecting your rights in your workplace, you have to galvanize and get people together, because when you're together, you're a voice. When you're isolated, you're not. And folks know that. This is why they like to keep things divided. But there has to be somebody that has the courage, and then you have to have somebody that has the patience to do it. And you don't have to do it by yourself. You can get a collective group of folks, small group that can
Right.
work these things out. But my point is that you have to come together and you have to speak up about these things. You have to demand better from your union. You see what I'm saying? Like I know
Right.
folks that work at DC 37, and some of them are scared, straight from their members because their members don't play. You see, their
Right.
members know, like they know the process. And I think now that you have a new industry, you have people that aren't necessarily too familiar with that union per se, or whatever respective union that's covering them. But you have to hold their feet to the fire. And if you feel like they're not doing a good job, then you need to figure out from your collective group who can do a better job and who we need to put in place. But those are the things that we have to do. We just have to start speaking up more. And think that's the biggest piece when it comes to what we do in the curriculum that we build out here. And what I'm building is just to make sure that folks feel empowered. Because when you
Hmm.
know the law, you know the law. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
like they can't tell me anything about stuff that I know, when it comes to law. That's why I can speak about these things in confidence. I mean, with confidence. Um, but that's what we have to do. We have to empower. And I'm hoping that, curriculum that I'm building out and my colleagues are building out, helps that.
Okay. I want to tell you, you're an amazing young man.
I
I think
appreciate you,
that
brother.
I want to see you run for office
Everybody
sometime.
keeps saying that, man, but I don't know about that one.
No, no, you
We
take your
talk
time.
on.
Take your time. Take your time. Make your name known.
Uh,
Uh, be humble. Educate. The young people are the ones that are going to be your future voters.
hmm,
The best politicians, that I saw, even the corrupt ones, were the ones that really stay close to the community. They were
hmm.
grassroots. I understand that power corrupts. I got all that, but I believe that your generation and my daughters are going to be smarter about it.
Yeah,
Okay,
we have to be.
so I
Hopefully.
definitely am. I'm sending you the email to invite you to the Elevate Innovate.
Yeah.
I can't wait to do that. I want to have people meet you. Where did you study?
Well, I said I went to. Well, let me see. Went to undergrad. I went to HBCU, Fort Valley State University.
Hmm.
So that's where that's where the Blacktivist, that's where
Yeah.
that culture comes in. And then I went to Western Michigan University in Michigan, for
Okay.
law school. And then that's after that. Then I got accepted to the EEOC program, the clerk.
Okay. All
So
right. Well, I'm very happy for you. I want to give a big shout out to our sponsors: Proteus 420, uh, New York City Cannabis Exchange, Green Spectrums, Meyer Security, Silk Road,
so
and of
cool.
course Gordy's Goodies. Yeah, I love Sohan.
Yeah.
Sohan's amazing. Um, I also want to let you all know that Elevate Innovate will be Sunday at Padre Park in the South Bronx from noon to 7. My dear friends, Fame, Neil, and Rachelle Sanchez will be hosting an amazing event of health and wellness. It's 420 friendly. That is this Saturday coming up. And I can't wait because they host amazing events. And I just want you all to know that you definitely want to come out, enjoy a beautiful day. Also, too, we will have Elevate Innovate August 15th. That's been rescheduled to August 1st. And I just want to let everyone know that, dude, we're having the New York State Can of Farms tour that's going to be kicking off July 23rd to Canacure Farms. We're going to meet the White family, 3 generations of farmers on a purely organic farm. We'll have a lovely experience of continental breakfast. You get a lunch, be part of a podcast tour, and a lovely goodie bag. The ride up to Canacure is at Argyle, New York. You'll
Mm.
just see a beautiful mixed grow cultivation, indoor and outdoor. Also, too, they finished their processing facility. So all tickets are on Event High. Reach out to me. And we really want to get everyone involved. We are looking for a transportation sponsor because this is expensive. So the transportation costs, the food and everything else is not that expensive. This the transportation cost. So we want to get you up there safely. But by all means, join our wait list. Just go to ogsocialnetworker.com, New York State Canna Farm Store link, hit the waitlist link. We already have like well over 100 people that are very interested that want to get on board. So I'm looking so forward to seeing you all there. Also to the podcast, it's going to be putting out a lot of content over the next few weeks. I want everyone to stay involved. One thing I did want to talk about real quick, Charles, if you don't mind, if you could just stay on for a minute.
Absolutely.
One thing I did want to talk about real quick that I thought kind of made me realize we are in a really screwed up situation here in our country when it comes to First Amendment rights. So Trump administration freezes 1.8 billion for Cornell and Northwestern. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they just will not bend the knee. So in that, this has actually affected the podcast in many ways. I did a beautiful interview with David Serrano of Cannabis Workforce Initiative. And, you know, he was, by his bosses, were told we need to take it down. Well, I made the video private. I'm not taking down my video, but I made the video private and will only be for our private members over Patreon. And yes, sir. And I got to tell you guys, you know, I don't play that, but I do love my friend David and don't want to put him in a position where he's caught between a rock and a hard place. So I will respect his wishes and let everyone know, though, that it's time to change.
Yeah.
We don't have time for this. I am not going to live in a country where 3 generations have served this country and we're going to be slaves again. We're not doing that. I'm the most passionate, most passive person on the planet. Y'all making me violent. Y'all gonna make me want to catch a case. Straight the fuck up.
Don't let them do that, brother. That's what they want. That's
why I've been in the house, because if I went out and saw ICE do some shit, I'm getting arrested. Arrested.
It's crazy out here with the ICE thing, man.
Yeah.
For real.
So
I was on an MTA bus, bro, and they literally stopped the bus, and I was downtown. Or stopped the bus because we were going to Conbud, and they they stopped the bus and they literally started like trying to check people for their tickets.
Yeah.
And this is MTA police, which lets me know, I feel like, okay, that means that they're partnering with them or something. Because I noticed they only took off like Hispanic people or Afro-Latino looking folks.
Right.
Like they didn't even check mine. Like they literally didn't even check mine. I was right there in the middle. And then they took them off and then the bus went on. So it's I'm with you on that, man.
Yeah, it's getting bad and we're not standing for it. And I demand everyone. I demand everyone to get involved and stop it with the, like it's them. I had a comment on my post from a video I saw that broke my heart in the city. It happened in the Bronx. I saw a baby being taken out of her mother's arms with ICE taking her away. And a Latina said, "Oh, well, they broke the law." You don't even know what the situation is.
And it's already been proven that they've literally grabbed people that have not broken the law.
They have not broken the law, right?
So they literally deported a guy that didn't have an issue.
So now and Latinos are, look, I'm mixed like a motherfucker, okay? So I can talk about everybody. But
that's your credit.
My brothers and sisters, Latinos, are you fucking kidding me? You guys voted for Trump in 2020 like crazy. And it was like, why? And it was all due to out of ignorance. It was all due to not having the education and understanding of who you're dealing with. Are you kidding me? You see your brothers and sisters, Cuban, Venezuelan, Colombian, Mexican, all of our Latino brothers and sisters are being persecuted in this country. Africans, every person of color. But you don't see them going into white neighborhoods. You don't see them going in. Irish have a large fucking contingent of people. Russians, Eastern Europeans, large contingents of white people that are undocumented. You don't see none of that. So this double standard needs to stop. The problem is that European Americans who are supremacists, far right thinking supremacists, they are not white. We're not fucking Crayola crayons. These are European Americans who gave up their culture thought they could start it here, but they take in our culture. Look at everything that they do. They have no culture. In the 1950s, when black artists came out with music that were hitting the charts, white artists would appropriate that music, and boom, every genre of music. And please forgive my expletives, y'all, but this is an adult podcast, but please forgive my expletives. Whether you like it or not, my beautiful brothers and sisters of European America, we're a part of you. You're a part of us. You need to come together and realize we don't want your shit. We already got ours. We're probably the only group of people in America, I can't say the world because I know there are other people that are living just as hard, but are making it look like we can handle it. Everything that's going on in the world right now is a Tuesday for us.
I know that. Wait a minute. If you ain't saying that's
so, I ask all of you to please think, read, educate yourselves. Don't listen. If you see somebody that got the same education as you and y'all talking around in circles, you need to go meet somebody smarter than you to give you more knowledge.
Yeah.
I am 61 years old. I seek knowledge. I have gotten it from young people, my age, and definitely older people. We all need to listen to each other. And we did with yesterday's election. We got a man in that's going to change this city. Now it's the mayoral race, and we got to fight. Not fight. I hate that word. We don't need to fight. We just need to come together and unite and pick the right candidate. And that's definitely Zohran Mamdani. All right. So, I want to tell you, Mr. Johnson, I'm very proud of you. You give me hope. You give me hope. You give me hope. I definitely want to give love to your parents.
Thank you.
You know, I get stupid too, like, because I'm silly as fuck. I'm 8 years old, actually.
No, but this is why
this
makes you great, though, because that's what makes you to where you're not trying to be pretentious, bro. You're authentic. I love it, though.
I just want to say I'm so glad your parents had that special night. And produce. Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I'm a middle child. That's why.
How many kids?
It's out of 5. I'm the middle one. That's all.
Man.
Older brother, older sister, younger brother, younger sister. That's also probably why I'm a little more even killed, because I still deal with siblings, older or younger, fighting each other, and then they come to me to try to figure out like what's going on.
I bet you, my next sponsorship, that you got the least ass whippings of everybody in this fucking.
I don't know. We need to tally it up, though, man. I don't know, because we definitely there was a few.
Are your parents?
No, there was a few gang ups I'm talking about as far as siblings.
No, I'm talking about from the parents. I'm talking about from the parents.
No, I'm saying when we were getting in trouble and stuff, they'd be like, no, he did, but then I also orchestrated some of those too. So I gotta figure it out. We definitely ganged up on a few of us.
I love it.
We didn't want to deal with it, but
I love it. Are your parents still together with us?
Oh no, my father passed back in 2010 or whatnot, but they were married for that was the other thing too. I'm very thankful and fortunate enough that I grew up in a 2-parent household. My father was a brilliant man, skipped a grade, got his master's at Emory. Mother was an educator as well. So they were married before he passed, 32 years. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, God bless your mother, God bless your dad, your family. I hope your siblings are doing well. Amazing interview. I will be posting this ASAP.
Have me come back anytime, brother.
No.
Because we could have talked for another two
another
plus.
2 hours. we're gonna we're definitely having a series. You see, I don't invite just to invite. You come on. All you got to do is let me know, Leo, man. I got something I want to talk about.
Copy.
And all right, let me schedule you Mondays now. I get all that out so I can get it out by Wednesday. And I want to get you on. Definitely want to get you on.
Yeah, appreciate
I just want to say thank you all so much for joining us on the podcast today. as I said before, we need to come together. We need to unite. We need to become more moderate. There's too much of this left, too much of this right. Let's become more moderate thinking. Get leadership that want to take care of everyone as best as they can. We can't look, just be reasonable people. We just need to work together. I love you all so much. Thank you for being on the podcast. Remember, this is Papa Dukes of the OG Social Network podcast. Remember to relax, relate, release. Congratulations to Zoran Mamdani. And I'll be voting for you for mayor, my man. Talk to you soon. Hold on, buddy. Talk to you soon, okay?